I don't really know what kind of tone this video is going to have. The reality is, we got the announcement today that Scream Factory said, hey, that Friday the 13th box set we have, it's going to be out of print soon. They didn't exactly give a concrete date, at least not at this moment, but they said by the time at least the next Shocktober sale hits, it'll be gone. And I don't know why, but I got upset about that, which is kind of weird considering I have the set. I love the set. And honestly, it kind of reminds me just how great it is. So if you're watching this video and you don't have this legendary Friday the 13th box set, I'm here to tell you, sometimes it's more than just the format. Physical media is important for a lot of different reasons. And sometimes when you think about physical media, what's really cool about it is the history of it, the memories that you have of it, how important it was at a certain time. And the Friday the 13th box set was a different kind of excitement, even from the Halloween box set. Now, the Halloween box set was huge. And when that came out, we hadn't really seen anything quite like that. But interestingly enough, Friday the 13th kind of did the same thing a year prior. That tin box set predated the Halloween Scream Factory box set, and that was a set that legitimately combined two studios' films. The Paramount 8 films, and then, of course, the New Line Cinema Jason movies. And what's so interesting about this whole thing is, when this box set right here came out, what's so interesting is it was in the middle of all of the lawsuit stuff going on. It blew everybody's minds. Nobody could understand how and why this was happening. You've got all this stuff going on with Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller, and I'll never forget, it was a normal day, and I remember I was off work because I was working, a shift schedule, and all of a sudden I started getting a bunch of messages on some of my socials, and it was from Dawn of the Discs. I'll never forget, it said, a Friday the 13th box set will get announced. And actually, it might have even said tomorrow, and I think maybe Scream Factory got upset about that, so they ended up just announcing the set that day. But I'll never forget it. In the middle of, I think it was COVID, in the middle of this huge lawsuit stuff going on with Sean and Victor, all of a sudden, we get this announcement of this giant Friday the 13th box set. Nobody could believe it. It broke the internet. I couldn't wait to see what the special features were going to be. But what really excited me is when we got the announcement of the first 4 films being completely remastered in 4K scans of the negative. Now, I'll never forget, what really made me happy was this. Now, I'm somewhat of a weird nerd when it comes to physical media. Something that's important to me that may not be as important to other people is theatrical cuts. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I like to watch stuff as the director's cut. And, of course, the movie in question, sure, it's important that having the director's cut of this is super important. When this came out on DVD from Paramount, when they did the Red Case Deluxe Edition DVDs, they did have this as unrated, and that was a huge deal. And I don't think that was actually the way I watched this movie first. I think the first way I watched this movie was, in fact, the previous DVD release. But I was happy that this had the theatrical version because that's history. Whether you like the theatrical cuts or not, to me, it's kind of irrelevant because for me, I agree, I'm going to watch the unrated version, but that the fact that they remastered the theatrical cut was super great for me because it's preserved. That's the thing. Sometimes if these things don't come out on discs, eventually they could be lost in time. And having that on here was super cool. Now, these are special edition slipcovers in case anybody's wondering. But I'll never forget what was so cool about this set was taking that artwork and reversing it to this artwork, which was used in different markets. I believe maybe it was the UK and maybe Australia and other places. And it's an interesting art. You've got this, this big axe going into a pillow, but you see the silhouette of a person holding the axe. There's blood on it. It's really cool. Even the font is a little bit different. Overseas, these movies got released by Warner Brothers, interestingly enough, back in the day on home video. But, that was the artwork that went with this. But yeah, Friday the 13th, man, what a great release. People will ask me sometimes my thoughts on this set and if they should still get it. And I have never once said don't get it. I've always said get that set. Even if stuff comes to 4K, I can't say don't get that because 4K is super cool and super important. But this box set is so cool. Now, when these movies came out, the one thing everybody was wondering about is how important was it going to be? What was going to be something that made it special? Well, something that made it special was definitely this, the Part 2 disc. On this disc, I'll never forget it. The box set had been announced. People were excited for it. And as a matter of fact, the set was supposed to start shipping in like 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, we saw Peter Bracke go online and say, we found Carl Fullerton's VHS tape with the scenes that were cut. Now, if you're a Friday the 13th fan, you know how legendary some of these deleted scenes were. We've been talking about them for years as fans, even people describing them. I'll never forget, on His Name Was Jason, Greg Nicotero described seeing the shish kebab kill. He described it in great detail. He said it was insane looking. All we could do was think about it, envision it in our heads. We never thought we'd ever see it, ever. Well, they were able to take that VHS tape. I think they even had to bake the tape to a certain level to get it to play. And that's something they do with old film. Maybe the film deteriorates and cooking it kind of firms it back up. It's an extremely delicate process. I know they do that with masters for old records. They managed to do that, and you'd be surprised how good the quality of those scenes look. Interestingly enough, the one scene that I think most people stuck with was not the shish kebab scene, but it was actually Alice. See her see the head in the refrigerator, she backs up, and then she gets that poker in the side of the face, and then it cuts. Well, on the effects reel, you see it go into the side of her face, she turns and looks at the camera, sticks her tongue out, which is so silly, and then drops. I don't know. It made me laugh, but there are legendary things that Friday the 13th fans thought they would never see. What's so cool is, you know, Part 3 and Part 4 also became remastered. After that, the rest were just in 1080p, with the exception of a few of the sequels, which we'll talk about. Of all the 4K remasters of the first 4 films, I think the one that looks the best is Part 2. And needless to say, the actual 4K of Part 2 is even better. Better than Part 1, mind you. I'm hoping we'll get 4Ks to the rest of the film soon, but, you know, if we don't, part of me says this box set's still good enough. Having these sequels in full 1080p with better color timing and the film's just looking right makes it all worthwhile for me. Watching Part 6, this is such a great way to watch the film. It looks great on this Blu-ray. I think Tom McLaughlin even kind of helped out with getting this one situated. Movies like The New Blood looked really great on Blu-ray too. I mean, they look better than the releases than we have from previous days. These releases look really great. I know a lot of people, when they got this set, they wanted to watch Jason Takes Manhattan in full 1080p. I don't know how true this was. There were some rumors I would read online that the Paramount DVDs and the Paramount Blu-rays that came up before this were really kind of upscaled 720p scans of the films. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the Blu-rays from the Scream Factory set all looked good. I also love the menu screens on here. They're nice and simple. I don't like menu screens that have clips from the movies playing. Give me the poster art with just the play, scenes, extras, and let the kind of image just kind of burn into the screen and kind of get you settled in before watching it. This set does that perfectly. Some of the cooler stuff that was in here at the time was hearing that Jason Goes to Hell was finally going to have its uncut version available on a disc. Now, in that set that came out in 2013, the 10 set, they put the theatrical version on the disc, and the way to watch the unrated version, high definition, was actually the Voodoo code, which nobody can even use those anymore. There were some problems when this set came out. Well, they actually forgot to put a scene in the unrated version where the kind of heavy-set kid that works at the diner gets his bone snapped out of his arm. It cut, you didn't see it. Fans found out about this the day the set was released. It was all over the internet. They screwed that up. They screwed up a 3D thing in Part 3, which was actually released in true 3D. And they were missing an audio scream in Jason X. I'm a pretty big Friday the 13th fan, but one of those things would have slipped past me, I'm sure. Probably the scream in Jason X, but certainly not the kill in this movie, because it's one of the coolest effects. Scream Factory was pretty quick to assess that situation and get it fixed. We had to fill out this thing and then just wait for these discs to magically arrive. We didn't get any sort of tracking number or anything. But once all was settled, the set was amazing. Needless to say, the Jason X disc in this set looks really good. This was taken from a 2K scan, and the documentary about the making of Jason X on this release is second to none. Sean Cunningham was ahead of the game when it came to taking 35mm, digitizing the movie, and then sending it to the effects people to do their work. They actually didn't know what they were doing. Like, why did you give this movie on a card? We're supposed to get the negative. And he was ahead of the curve on that. So I always will speak Sean Cunningham's praises. I'm a big fan of Sean. This release is great. There's even a segment in here where Kane Hodder's being interviewed, and while the interview is going on, he actually makes a moment to stop and goes, "Hold on, guys. I'm not done with that fucking hockey mask. I'm going to play that character again." Whether he does or he doesn't remains to be seen, but you could believe Kane when he said that in this special features in this disc. I'm sad that this thing's going out of print. I really urge people, if you're watching this and you don't have this, don't worry about 4K. It's not about 4K. It's about Scream Factory actually going out of their way to make this happen. Sure, I'm sure they made a ton of money on this set, but, you know, they actually had to just buy all the New Line discs for Freddy vs. Jason and the remake. So they were spending some good money to put this set together. The artwork on this thing is gorgeous. Everybody loves it. I mean, it's got all these pictures of Jason on it. I love it. There's a part 3 shot that is so cool on here. I love it so much. I really hope people, if you haven't purchased this, you'll consider it. This is such a legendary set, and I'm going to be sad to see it go. I know, it's weird. Maybe some of you are like, Christian, this thing's been in print for a long time. Get over it. I just don't want people to miss out on it. Sometimes physical media is more than just the format. This set's important, and I think years down the road, it's going to be looked at in really, really fond eyes. Consider getting it if you don't have it. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.